Guys, welcome to My Guy Reviews. It's My Guy Brig. Today, I have a special guest with me. He only attends so often, comes in once in a while, he's always late. That's My Guy Monkey.
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me. I mean, I'm just glad I could make it this time.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Anytime, man. How's things going?
Yeah, things are good. Fine. It's been a hot weekend.
Ooh, yeah, it has been.
Week, so I'm pretty tired. I've had extra work shifts. But, apart from that, I'm good. I've got things to look forward to, but we'll talk about that later.
So we live in the UK. We complain about the weather when it's hot. Yeah. We complain when it's cold. When it rains.
When it snows, people complain now. Which I don't
the whole
get.
country stops.
Brilliant.
Yes, the whole country is a standstill when we get a little bit of snow. Trains can't operate with leaves. Trains can't operate
leaves in autumn.
Yeah, and that's the country we live in. So welcome to our podcast. Our podcast, we normally come up with a topic idea. One of us does. One person's done the research and kind of brought details about the topic, and then the other person comes in blind and they don't have a clue what it is, but they still contribute to the kind of the questions and stuff that come off of it. So without having any prior knowledge, and we always try and give you a couple of clues to get us onto topics. So this time round, as we've, I think I always say this in every kind of show, you threatened to do a video game episode. Yes. We did one where we did the Rewind episode, but this one is a specific video game franchise.
Awesome.
Episode.
Is it going to be one that I know though? Or is it going to be one that I refuse to play?
I don't know if you've ever. I don't know if you've ever played this game.
It's not Assassin's Creed, is it?
You were so close.
I don't play those ones.
That's why we avoided Assassin's Creed. So,
Call of Duty.
No, it's not Call of Duty.
This is good so far.
Okay, so far so good, right? So the very first game in this.
Look at my trophies list. See what I play.
Yeah, the very first game in this franchise came out in 2009.
Okay.
So about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Its follow-up or sequels or, the next iterations, what we want to call it, was in 2012.
Okay.
And then another one came out, the next version or whatever numbering you want to call it, in 2014. And there's a new version out this year.
Righto. I've got no idea.
No ideas. Okay. So it's a game that's available on all consoles. So it's not like an exclusive. So it's available on like PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. It's a game that I know you've played.
Okay, that's good.
It's a first-person shooter.
It's a first-person shooter.
Set in an open world.
It's probably not going to be Borderlands.
It's Borderlands. We're talking Borderlands. So Borderlands 3 comes out in a couple of weeks. So by the time this podcast comes out, Borderlands 3 is a week away. So I thought let's go back to Pandora and talk about Borderlands 1 and 2. We won't talk pre-sequel because I don't think you played it. And personally, I haven't completed it. I've got about 3/4 into it. But we could talk about it briefly. So Borderlands is also in the Guinness Book of World Records for claiming to have the most number of randomly generated guns in a game as well.
Oh, wow.
Because of the loot system.
Yeah. Isn't the new one having even more then? So that's going to break records again.
Yeah, so whatever algorithm or something they use, it generates, they'll say infinite, but I think Borderlands 1, the claim was like 14 million.
Yeah.
But then when they actually looked into it a bit more, it's about 3.5 million. That's still a huge number of...
controversial.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge drop in numbers, but that's still...
up their numbers, man.
I know, they need to get bigger and bigger, don't they?
It started at infinity, and then it went down to that, and then it went down again.
I said infinity. They never claimed infinity.
You let it here
and
first.
then obviously... we said infinity. And then obviously Borderlands 2 had even larger loot system and even more kind of guns. And so I'm guessing you're right. Borderlands 3 will be bigger. So we'll talk about Borderlands first, the first one, talk about the second one. We'll see if we can talk about a bit of the DLCs, but more interested in kind of like the games themselves. We'll talk a bit about the playable characters in each one.
There's one
and then
DLC
some of the kind of
I
honourable
absolutely love.
and honourable kind of DLCs or stuff. Okay, so as we always do, or I always do, I have a little jingle for when I expect you to come in with some details. So Borderlands 1,
memory.
What's the story, my guy Monkey? I would like to know.
The story, it's all about treasure hunters, isn't it? Basically, that's what it's all about.
Vault hunters, yeah.
Yeah, vault hunters, that's the one. And you've got, is it 4 main characters that you need to choose from?
So can you remember any of the 4 characters before we go any?
No.
So the very first, okay, we'll come back to that.
Tell me.
Okay, we start. Let's start with the characters then. Okay, so you're right. There's 4 playable characters in the very first Borderlands. Now, we played this quite a lot. I played as
got co-op, which is good.
Yeah, and it was kind of you could start co-op at any point, and you can play through as many missions and levels as you want.
Yeah, and you can join both of you games.
Yeah, and it was good because
overpowered.
So yeah, sometimes someone would be overpowered and he would join your mission or game, and then he could just pretty much wipe out the bosses and stuff. But
I think these days they would probably restrict your levels or like change your levels to level it out or something.
I think there's especially in Bloodborne, there's a percentage. So if you're within a certain percentage of your playable character, then people can join you. So they can only be so many levels above you or so many levels below you. But as soon as they join in Borderlands as well, like all the characters and everything in Pandora, it even comes up with that message that they've got stronger, they've got more health. So if you join someone in we'll talk about Borderlands 2, but in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, they have a lot more health, and their attacks are the attack points are even higher. So the more people join your game, the more kind of like the difficulty increases. And that was one of the good things about Borderlands. You could come up with 4 different playable characters. The first one, which you played a lot, which was the Siren.
I love the Siren because she was like stealthy, fast, and you could turn invisible and then move around, do some extra damage, then appear again out of nowhere. I love that. Love that character. Yeah, that was my character. You were the tank, weren't you?
Yes, I was. So I played as Roland, who was like the soldier who could throw his turret down. So this was Borderlands would have been my first real first-person shooter that I played to the end. So Roland was kind of like your easy intro into first-person shooter because you had a torrent that you could stand behind, a torrent that could regen your health, a torrent that regen ammo.
Yeah, you could upgrade it to do all that stuff.
So it made the starting of the game slightly easier, but as the game went on, actually some of the other characters' skill trees meant that they kind of advanced above Roland's, in my opinion. Because when I played
they were kind of cooler,
because when I played it second time, I played as the Siren as well. And some of the abilities she has, like when you phase things, you can make them corrosive and stuff, so they'd lose more health.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you can just phase in and out, and just everyone starts getting poisoned with stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah, because it's almost like it did like a supernova thing, so it just explodes and it's corrosion everywhere and stuff. So there were 2 of the characters. So I played a lot as Roland, completed the game as, and played through, and then I played Siren.
I think I did the other way around.
You played with Siren first, yeah.
Because I remember playing with the turrets as well, because they were really cool. So I must have played Roland as well.
Yeah. And then the other 2 characters, do you remember any of them?
No, tell me.
They appear as NPCs in Borderlands 2. One is Mordecai.
Right, yeah, recognise the name.
Yeah, so he's like the sharpshooter.
Right,
so he was the one with the bird.
Oh,
that was his skill set.
And always have a bird.
Yeah.
Sniper rifle.
And then the next one was Brick. And he was really good through hand-to-hand combat. So if you're more of a melee fighter, then that's your kind of character. If you're more of a sniper person, Mordecai was your person. Roland, for my opinion, he was a good introduction into the game, an easier character to use early on. But I think Siren was the one that, if you stuck with, was far powerful as the game went on.
I guess you started out weaker, but like you say, the abilities you could get were just great fun.
Yes, as you, because Borderlands is kind of like an RPG open world kind of game where the more levels you completed, the more missions you did, the more areas you saw, you get XP points, and then you can level up, and then you have something called a skill tree, which you would then put points against, which would then open up more and more kind of characteristics.
Yeah, which is kind of common these days, but that wasn't used so much in those sort of games back then.
No,
so
and
I kind of put it together.
And that's what I loved about Borderlands was the ability to upgrade your character and choose your own path. So while me and you could play the same game, we could be the same character, but we could be working on complete different skill trees. So when we get a piece of loot that opens up, one might pick a sniper rifle over a SMG or something, and that's what I liked about it. It's quite unique in that way, where it wasn't just one weapon could work for everyone, depending on how your skill tree set worked. You could have any weapon almost, and you could build it however you want. So, what was the story again? So we've done the characters. Should we go back?
Well, there were Vault Hunters.
Yes, they were.
And I can't remember. I think there was something obviously that maybe the planet has stolen or something, and they're trying to get hold of it, or maybe we're trying to reach a resource before everyone else.
Yeah. Something
like that.
Something like that, yeah. It's saying like the distant future on a planet called Pandora.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And then there's this Atlas Corporation, and they're mining for kind of resources. And then we meet Patricia Tanis. She's like an archaeologist. And she's the one who's kind of said, oh, we need to get this vault key because there's just so much treasure or something behind it.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert for the game, because it's 2009, so we'll spoil the game. There is no treasure. The vault actually opened up, and the destroyer, another kind of boss, comes out at the end of it.
Beast is like a world-destroying beast.
Yes. And
essentially.
Up until that point, like I quite like Borderlands. It's a great game. The DLCs were good, but the actual final boss in this, and especially the first one, I didn't really enjoy it as much.
Yeah, you said last week, because we were talking about something about that. Yeah, that the boss was kind of weak.
Yeah, just the final boss was. Yeah,
yeah. For me, I remember it being quite a hard battle, but it's mostly just time consuming. You have to hide a lot, shoot, hide. Yeah.
And it sat in front of you. It didn't move around. It didn't do anything, did it? It took up most of the size of your screen. And then as I was rolling, I would just chuck my torrent down and I'd hide, wait for it to come back and chuck my torrent again, hide, and throw some grenades at it. And that was kind of it. There wasn't a lot of strategy I used.
I liked it, the fact that it can't move. I do like creatures that are they're so big and so destructive that they literally just don't really move around a lot. Obviously it still had attacks against you, and you still had to hide away, otherwise you would be killed quite easily if you didn't maneuver yourself and hide out of the way.
But for me, this is kind of like, because I didn't play a lot of games like this. This was the first one where you've got the main story, which was good, and it takes you to certain areas, but there would be areas which you would never discover unless you did the additional optional missions.
Yeah, it's all about side missions, it's open world, yeah.
And there was like New Haven, or Old New Haven, which was the first level in Borderlands where almost, if you got to that location at level 20, everything leveled up to your level. And so while the game itself could have been challenging, and as you kind of progress and you get leveled up, certain things become really easy to kill. So that one location scaled up according to your character, which I thought was really good.
You need that,
otherwise the game was just too easy. So I think they did that really well. In Borderlands 2, they do it better, I think.
It kind of makes you wonder why they bother with leveling up systems, because do you really want to become so powerful that the game isn't any good anymore because everything's easy? But it's there to sort of give you feeling of progress as well.
Yeah, so Borderlands always had a recommended level for you for when you're doing the missions. So if it said level 10, and it'd come up red if you were under that. Now, if you're attacking a character that was 1 or 2 levels above you, they would have a little red skull above their head, indicating that it's going to be difficult to kill his character. So certain areas you would avoid.
It's kind of like...
Even though it's open world, but you just wouldn't go there because you know as soon as you go there, they would hit you and you would die, while you could waste all your ammo trying to kill it.
It's something I've noticed in a lot of modern games actually that do this experience and leveling thing, is that it's kind of like giving you difficulty options without you knowing it. Like if you want to try and take it on when it's got that red skull and it can instant kill you, you can make the game, you can take on the challenge and it'll be really hard. But like if you kind of wimp out and you just keep leveling up, you can you can then make it onto normal mode. If you're still struggling, you just go away, kill some more easy characters, easy bad guys, come back again until you're super powered, and then everything's easier each time. So it's like, it kind of, the weighing up of it is like, do I just play it on hard mode and go straight for it, or do I grind a little bit and level up and do side quests so that I can then find the game easier? And I find that in a lot of games.
Yeah, I think with this game you have to do some of the side missions, because by the time you get to the boss at the end of the very first, I think it's either between level 30 and level 35.
Yeah.
So you could play the main story, but you won't be nowhere near that level. So you do the side missions to get yourself to that level anyway. So you would have to do them. So I think intentionally the game is good that way, that there are certain areas that will be a level that is too high for you to enter.
Yeah.
And so you are forced to do a side mission or two.
Yeah. Because I remember...
But you don't have to do... Yeah.
The thing I remember about it... Yeah, sorry. The thing I remember mostly about the game is like the early levels, because I think that's because it keeps you in that area, so it keeps you walking around in the same circles doing different missions and stuff.
Yeah. The very first... The start of the whole game is that the scene where they're in the bus, and they're being driven around, and then you click on one of your 4 playable characters, and then the game starts, and you're literally thrown into... I won't say, because Borderlands 2 I think is better for that, but this one you're thrown into the game, and then there's just a few soldiers roaming around, and you got to secure that location.
Yeah.
And then after that, you kind of as you start to roam around, without actually picking a mission or anything, you find yourself looking at certain areas where you can go and you can kill the skags, or you can kill the people. But once you go a little bit further than that, you'll notice they've all got red crosses, so you can't go above that level. And I think that's the way round your problem they have with Assassin's Creed, where you stop people from going ahead on certain levels because you can't get past them. The intention is, even though, I guess even if they're level 6 and they've got a little red cross, the amount of health that they have is just ridiculous that you can't pierce them. But if you're both level 6, you could take them out a lot quicker.
Yeah, so what you're saying it's better than a wall, the invisible wall.
Oh, yeah. I think because your problem with the invisible wall has been resolved in this game.
Excellent.
I think there's a few criticisms with the game which they then fix in game 2, like the waypoints, the fast travel, the car system. You don't really use the car that much.
I enjoyed the cars.
The fact that when there's loot on the floor, especially ammo, in Borderlands 2, you walk over it and it just collects it automatically. Yeah. And even the money. And in this one, you have to keep clicking the square button to collect all the ammo and all that.
I forgot you had to collect it all with the square.
And I think early on, you spend money on ammo, but as the game goes on, as soon as you come out of the first few bits and you've leveled up a couple of times, you don't need to spend any money on ammo. You can buy weapons if you want to, but there's enough ammo everywhere that you can just kind of collect. You don't need to worry about kind of buying it thereafter. And that's what I liked about the game, was there's just enough loot crates everywhere. And if you did kind of look around the game, you'll find secret kind of gun loot crates as well, which were really cool. You know, like the red ones that used to have the mechanics when they opened up and they sprung open. I loved the whole animation and the time and effort they put into them, because it actually made you feel like you've achieved something by opening one of them.
Yeah, and they had different grades of quality with different colours. Is that right?
Yeah, the
really great,
weapons.
Great finding the blue ones or whatever it was, all the different colours. Oh yes, this is a really good weapon.
And there's a lot of good good bosses in here as well, and a lot that were kind of like okay, but we won't talk so much about them because I want to talk about raid bosses a bit later, because I think that's a very strong point about the whole series.
Okay.
So the very first one had a number of DLCs. See if you can remember any of these. The first one is the Zombie Island of Dr. Ned.
Oh yeah, I remember the name. I don't know if I played any of the DLCs for the first one.
Okay, because you did have Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, maybe I did then.
So that one basically is...
Yeah, I did. I remember playing it, yeah.
And there's just like zombies and were-skags and stuff. And so, yeah, it kind of like... It changed... And it gave us new kind of villains and new kind of characters to do. Then there was Maxie's Underdrome Riot. This was the most boring and most kind of... it was the worst DLC they've ever made. So basically, you go in, and then it just had levels upon levels of bad kind of villains who just kept coming up. So you would have to go through... I
think I remember liking this compared to you.
Because you'd go in and you'd have round 1, you clean them out, you come out, you collect your thing, you go back, you do round 2. Now, if you ever left the game and saved it, you come back, you'd have to start back at round 1 again. And it was just literally it's an arena, there'd be enemies that would appear, you kill them, there might be a little break, more enemies would appear, and you had to do it like 20 times. And I think as you go through, so when you got to the level 20th, I think there was 20 levels of enemies that appeared, so you'd have to play it 20 times. That's what I thought is super boring. I didn't.
A little bit grindy. Thing is, I kind of like repetitive gameplay, so that's why that might appeal more to me than you.
Yeah, and I think that also was a bit frustrating because every time you killed, it was the only level where every time you killed someone, you got no XP points. You'd only get it when you completed a level.
Ouch.
Yeah. The next one was General Knox. The Secret Army of General Knox.
Yeah, I recognise the name.
This one was quite good because this one was you can't, it's just it's a DLC. It's a new area, but it had new villains and you drove around a lot more. You had like cars and you kind of go from place to place.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I like the fact that they really kind of changed the environment. So the first DLC, they made it kind of like zombies and they made it with the were-skags and all of that. And then the second one was just the boring arena. But this one, we had a whole new area, which was a bit more futuristic-y. You drive around a lot more, so they're making these huge leaps in terms of kind of like transportation and stuff. So I like that. And then the last one was the Claptrap Robot Revolution. Do you remember this one where you just shoot tons and tons of claptraps because they were the villains? Yeah. And right at the very end, you would fight against this massive claptrap. That was the main boss. And it all
claptrap was a help. Was it like a little robot helper?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
In the main game, so he's like a little guy on one wheel, is it?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's one wheel
with a couple of arms.
2 arms. Yeah.
One giant eye.
And basically that one kind of like, you just got lots and lots of different claptraps. You could shoot different coloured ones and it had different missions. It was quite fun because, Claptrap's a little bit annoying, but he's a good sidekick in a way. But in this one DLC, you finally got to kind of just go around and just kill them all. So Borderlands 1, from what you can remember it, now you've already got a rating system, PlayStation or Xbox.
Okay, we're going to use that, yeah.
Yes. So where do you put Borderlands 1?
PlayStation. It's on PlayStation, so...
It is on PlayStation, yes. I played it.
I played it on PlayStation.
So, Borderlands 1 was...
what about you?
Preceded by... I loved it, so yeah. For me, it's the PlayStation 4.
You haven't mentioned the art style yet, though.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. So it's a very kind of it's more comic book, hand-drawn kind of animation.
Do you know what it's called?
No.
Cell shaded is what they call it.
Ah.
That means it's 3D. It's 3D rendered in a way, but it essentially, rather than having textures for all the things you see, it's all colours. It's all coloured in. So that's, I guess, why they call it cell shaded, because it's all made out of shading within the game rather than sort of putting textures, skin textures and stuff on. And it gives it that really cartoony look.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like Grand Theft Auto covers that cartoony vibe.
I really like that cartoony effect as well, because
yeah.
A lot of games were going more realistic, and they kind of were going like, if you play the game, the facial and all the kind of background looks immaculate and it looks very real. This is kind of like taking it back and making it just look like a comic book, made it really vibrant and colourful and more fun. Because when the villains start running towards you, like the little savages and stuff, and you hit them with a corrosive weapon, and then there's green bits flying at them, or if you hit them with the fire weapon, and then they start catching on fire. All that was really cool.
Video gamey, wasn't it? Because it just sort of sparks away and maybe shows you all the numbers falling off.
Yes, that was another cool thing as well, which I liked, was the health bar on the person. As you hit them, it would obviously go down, but you could see your hit points. So if you hit them in their head, that would be higher than if you hit them in the chest, and it actually show you how much that hit point was. Yeah. Which is quite, because I hadn't played a lot of first-person shooters to that point, so I really love this. I really love the open world. I love the loot system, and the fact that if you kill a boss and you go back and you kill them again for the second or third time, you get different loot as well. Yeah. So there's always a chance that you can get like a legendary weapon or better, guns or shields, grenades, mods, and kind of anything literally. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. Main thing I remember is the co-op. I think that's the really important thing for me. Yeah. Because I don't really like competitive gameplay. So you got Call of Duty. Most of the time you're just running around shooting each other in an arena if you want multiplayer. So I really appreciate having co-op, basically.
And in this co-op, you work together as a team. And as we'll talk about Raid Bossy later, it's kind of, you can have up to 4 people playing on your game. And you could all be kind of like helping each other to get to the end of the missions. And when someone picks up ammo, the good thing about this game was they gave ammo to all the people in the team. Yeah. So the only thing that it didn't do was if you pick up a weapon, you kept it. So if you're in someone else's game and a really cool weapon appeared, if you got to it first, you would keep it.
Yeah, and you could do some tricky things with that as well, I think. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, you could mess around with it a little bit and maybe double up your weapons. I think I only did it once, I think. But by tricking the co-op, you could actually double up a weapon occasionally. All the things we're talking about a lot of the things that we're talking about are actually appropriate for the Dragon's Crown game I'm playing, because it's got randomized loot as well, and co-op gameplay, and some other things.
Yeah, I think once the game's kind of established that, like we talked about Arkham, the Batman game that came out in 2009 as well. Once they've got a mechanic that's well loved, it seems like a lot of people take that idea and they build a completely different game, but they take that one concept and then they put it all over the game. Like leveling up isn't a new thing in games.
No,
skill trees isn't a new thing in games. But
it's a combination of them.
Yeah, and having the additional loots and the crazy amount of weapons you can have, and it's those kind of things that kind of distinguish the game from other games.
Because some people would call this an RPG just because it's got elements that used to be traditionally only RPG. Like it was always action or RPG, but now everything's combined. And it started with this one, maybe.
It could have, yeah. We don't know. So that moves us nicely into the next, the sequel, which is, what was the sequel called?
I can't remember. Is it Borderlands 2?
Yes, Borderlands 2. So they improved the game. They made a lot of changes, but I think one of the biggest changes they did was you had normal mode or normal hunter mode, or whatever they called it. Then you had true Vault Hunter mode. So actually, when you play through it a second time, it actually increased the enemies that you're going to fight against, and it gives you a chance to do all the levels. And then you could play Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, where everything would constantly scale up to whatever level you're at.
Nice.
And I really like that, because then each kind of like level and everywhere you went, the difficulty had been ramped up. So there's no way of kind of farming and kind of getting yourself higher up in levels, because the characters or everything around you, the entire environment has scaled up.
Yeah. Again, Dragon's Crown does the same thing.
All right. This also introduced
it all from Borderlands, clearly.
Yeah. This also introduced something called Badass Rank. Do you remember this?
No.
So you'd have to do certain tasks. So for example, it'd say like use a shotgun and kill so many characters, and then when you get to 100 points, you can then buy a permanent power up. So like to do with gun damage or your delay speed in your shield, grenade mod, whatever it is, it would then give you a permanent increase. So your first playthrough, you could increase your character to have loads of percentages and everything, and then the second time you play the game, you'll just notice that the game actually feels easier, because it's a new character. Even though it's a new character, it's a brand new game, but because you've got all this additional increase in gun damage, might be 10% by then. So whatever weapon you pick up, it's saying, it's firing at 10% higher than it is. Whatever shield you got, the shield damage and your maximum health, everything's increased by a percentage. So I think those were really cool, because it just meant if you play through again, you're not going to lose all the stuff that you've been working on. You can just keep it and just keep playing again and again.
You can just blast through it, mowing down enemies.
So as always, we have our what's the story, my kind monkey? I would like to know. Yes.
Okay. The story is, I have no idea. Is Handsome Jack in this one?
Yeah, this is the one with Handsome Jack. Maybe one of my favourite villains of all time.
He turns up. He's pretty cool. I can't remember much stuff, but you can tell me all the things.
So after the elements of number 1, they find that the game opens with we've got more Vault Hunters, but now obviously we found that there's other planets, and there's this corporation that's been run by Handsome Jack, and they have been drilling and mining this iridium, and that's obviously making the planet's core unstable as well. And now we've got all the characters from the previous game. They're obviously they've created like a stronghold, or the Crimson Raiders, or but they are opposing Handsome Jack, and we now have the ability to play as new Vault Hunters. And do you remember the characters?
I can't remember them at all.
You can't remember any of them?
I can't remember them, no.
So
until you tell me them, I might remember.
So in this,
was there no Siren again?
There was, yes.
Okay, good.
So I imagine you played as Maya the Siren in this one.
I expect so, yeah.
So she had a phase ability again, and you could phase an individual kind of enemy. So I played through. First time I played as Axton, who was the new soldier, who was like Roland in the previous game.
Yeah.
Again, had a turret. Yeah. But once I completed the game, played it a second time, I played as Salvador, and he's the easiest character to actually play as.
Okay. Why is that?
If you've ever played kind of a shoot 'em up, because every time you use his skill ability or whatever, the skill tree thing, he would come out with 2 guns. Borderlands 2, one of the things that they say is if you use the slag, one of the weapons, it makes the character go purple, and then if you hit him with any other weapon, it does double the damage. So when you play as Salvador, you would have one weapon as the purple one, and then you can have corrosive fire, you can have anything else, and it would just do double damage.
Oh, nice.
And also his character, when he's in that mode, it's regenerating your ammo, You can get it to regen health.
Good, yeah.
As soon as you get to a certain point, if your health is down, I think you press L1 and he can regen his entire health full again. But by doing that, you pissed off the enemy, so that individual enemy, it starts to hit harder, but shoots whatever, but it gives you back your health. So this character and a lot of the hit points as well, like when you're in that skill tree and you're using his power of going berserker, you can also throw out 2 grenades instead of 1. So it still costs you 1 grenade, but it's chucking out 2 at the same time. So there's a lot of cool things that he did that I think if you played a first-person shooter, that character was maybe the easiest character to use to complete the game with.
That's something that Borderlands series definitely has going for it, is their use of variety in the character creation. So you can choose to play it in several different ways, which is good, especially if you want to do co-op as well. It's nice to have different people be able to do different things rather than just being the same strengths. Yeah,
because otherwise you'll have 4 people chucking a torrent down, and that would be it. So
you just have Call of Duty, basically.
Yeah, basically everyone's the same.
I'm not shitting on the game, but
so again, like,
not that bad. I do play it sometimes.
You play it all the time. So the soldier character, again, I played the very first, and I think what they've done is they've said, if you've never played a shooter before and you want to kind of get started, play as a soldier, because he throws the turret. And you could hide, you can kind of like shoot from further away, but the turret will take the enemies, kind of will shoot down the enemies, but also distract the enemy as well. So if you feel you're not confident enough in the gameplay, you could actually use that character, and it kind of gives you a good kind of introduction to the game. And I wouldn't say it's on easy mode, because the turret, while it does throw atomic bombs and stuff, but as the game levels up, everything becomes kind of like a level playing field.
And to be fair, it's more of a tactical character in some ways compared to one that can hand to hand or and then Maya again is like the Siren from previously. So the skills tree, I think in this one again has kind of a steep learning curve. So the first few level ups are quite difficult and are normal, but then as you level up, she becomes a more powerful character. Salvador, I think, is the game. If you played a shoot 'em up before, he's the character you want to be, because it makes the game so much easier having the ability to constantly. Because that's the character I played to the end. Zero is the kind of Mordecai kind of character, but he has the ability to go invisible, and he can then kill characters when he's in invisible mode. And I played that character once or twice, but it's not for me. I don't think I'm not suited for that gameplay. Then there was a DLC that was added, and you played as one of these characters, and it's Gage, the Necromancer. She was the girl who had the flying robot. Okay, did I play as that? It's been a long time. You did,
yeah. So the robot would, if you ever lost your shield, it would repair your shield. It would float around. It'd help kill enemies. This was kind of but the robot would always kind of be floating around, and it became easier to start off with. But I think the skill tree was kind of made in such a way that if you play the game, the first few levels becomes easier because you've got the shield repair and you've got all the help from this character. But as the game goes on and the villains and enemies get harder, its effect is less and less, because if you're only repairing very slowly, or if you're only hitting very small amounts of hit points, then the character's kind of main thing isn't as good as some of the other ones as the game went on.
I like that. I like the sound of that. I can't remember doing it, but I do like the sound of it, because it means that rather than the game getting easier, it's becoming more challenging. Like you've set yourself up with an easy little defense thing that is really helpful, and that's a great idea. But then as you're getting through, you're going to have to put in more and more effort to try and get around everything. Yeah, I think it's a good setup.
And then the last character was Crag, and he was like the psycho. So you finally got to play as one of the kind of the villains, and he was a very melee oriented character, and he was very strong and he's quick doing that. So again, this was kind of like your brick character. A lot of people I've seen play this as that character, and they're really good at the game, and they whiz in, whiz out.
Yeah.
But he's not the character for myself. Mine's more kind of like, it's a tank kind of character who can just kind of like chuck something down, run away, or be like Salvador, just kind of like Berserker mode, where I can just have 2 guns and can just shoot everything that moves.
Yeah, a lot of these other characters are sounding interesting. I might have to replay this game. Because I didn't actually make it to the end of this game, you know.
I was thinking the same thing. Like, I was reading about these characters, and I was like, you know, I'm still playing as Salvador right now on Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, because I finished the new DLC recently. Yeah. And, you know, I was thinking about the other characters that I haven't really played properly, and I was thinking maybe I should get back into that. And then as I was reading and researching pre-sequel, because I never completed that, it makes me think I should go back and maybe finish that one first. Because their characters were something I've never discovered, never got to the end of their skill trees to see how they kind of leveled up and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never owned that one. So
you do, because you've got to have some Jack, the Borderlands the collector's edition. Yes. This one also introduced golden keys. So what a lot of companies were doing was loot crates, and they're charging people money to buy a loot crate and spend real currency on stuff. What these guys did, which I thought was really clever, and you know what I rate them for, is obviously they created a ton of DLCs they charge money for. They created the collector's edition, which I own, and it has all the DLCs. But what they did also was they'd have shift codes, which were released on their social media websites. They'll tweet them, they'll put them on Facebook, and then all you do is you redeem them, and you get golden keys, which gives you a chance to open a chest in Sanctuary, and it gives you weapons to whatever level you're at. And, you know, so if you scaled up and you're level 60, if you open the loot crate, it would be level 60 weapons.
Yeah, were they timed crates as well, so you had to do them within a certain time?
No. So once you get a shift code, and it's successful, if you got 10 keys, you can use them anytime throughout the game. The way I would say is if you can avoid it, try not to use them in the first 2 playthroughs. Use them in the Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, because once you get to like level, let's say level 50, the weapons that you need should be level 50. And if you don't have any, then run back to Sanctuary, put in a couple of keys, get some weapons out, and then go off and do some more hunting. And when you get a couple more levels up, go back to Sanctuary and do that again. Because they're guaranteed weapons at your level.
Excellent.
And they didn't cost anything as well. They just gave them away every so often. But there wasn't an infinite amount of them. There was a finite number, maybe like 500 or 600 or whatever it was. But at least you didn't have to keep paying for them like other games where it's just like, pay for this if you want this new skin or this new color, loot crate, pay extra money. And they just kind of gave them away, which I really liked.
Yeah, it's nice. It's just for rewarding you for being on social media and stuff.
Exactly, following them, and just kind of like every so often they just send you some stuff, and you're just like, yes, I'll have some of that. Let's talk about DLCs, because I know this is the only reason why you wanted to talk Borderlands. So the first DLC that they released was Captain Scarlet and her pirate booty.
Yes,
Do you remember this one?
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember it, yeah.
So you go to like a little town in Oasis,
and
then there's sandworms, so there's new villains, and there's kind of like new characters you fight against. And you get hover boats as well for the first time, because this whole sand dunes. And it turns out, spoiler alert, that Captain Scarlet is a bad person in the end. Even though you're helping her out. Who would have? And then the next one is Mr. Torg's Campaign of Carnage.
Right.
Do you remember this one?
I recognise the name.
Yeah, so this one was like you go through and you have to become the ultimate. You basically killed all these people so you could have a shot at the title belt to become the champion of whatever, the badass creator of Badass Zinus or something.
The one left
so alive. You would have to you'd kill off all the other competitors, and I think there's 4 different bosses who were the main kind of characters. And they all were very, very different. And you'd kill them, and then you'd move on to the final battle. So it it was really good because you go to different areas, you pick up on stuff. And Tiny Tina was in this as well, and she said how she's your number one fan, her number
awesome.
one fan of whoever the final villain was. And and it's just you working your way, doing the Rocky montage, killing things to get to that level. I actually really liked that one. It wasn't massive, it wasn't great, but it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I played it, but if Tiny Tina's in there, I love that character, so I'm going to have to go back.
Yeah, and then the next one was Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt.
Right.
Do you remember
Is
this
killing
one?
animals? I don't know.
Yes, it's pretty much just killing everything, yeah. So basically, Sir Hammerlock, you go to his, I can't remember what the area is called, but you go there, and then basically it just kind of sets you up on adventures where you go off and you have to kill certain characters. It's really good. It's not as good as kind of the werewolf one, the Dr. Z one, which I really like that one over this one. Because those two are quite similar in a way, but in terms of new characters,
of that one now,
in terms of new characters and the fact that it's kind of zombies and stuff, I prefer that one to this one. But they have a similar feel to them. And then the last one is your favourite one, right? So what's your fourth?
You've been saving this one till last, haven't you?
Well, it's the release order as well, but yeah.
You know, it's I can't remember what it's called now. It's Tiny Tina's something. I can tell you what it's about though.
Okay, brilliant. Like. So this is Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon.
Yeah, Assault on Dragon Keep, yes. And I love this one because you're essentially playing an RPG within the game, as in a tabletop role-playing game where you sit down with 4 friends or whatever number of friends, and one person runs the adventure, and you're out in a fantasy world killing stuff and trying to do quests and stuff. But this time, Tiny Tina is the dungeon master, the person running the thing, and you guys too. Even though you've got guns in this, which is kind of strange, you've still got your guns, but you are pitted against things like skeletons and dragons.
Yeah.
And do you remember the way it opens? That's the best bit as well.
Yes.
The first thing that opens up, you go up against a dragon straight away, and it completely kills everyone, and you all die. And then everyone complains at the dungeon master, which I think is just brilliant. They're just like, you've made a rubbish game. You just killed us all. Give us a chance. So she resets everything, just like as it would be in real life playing a role-playing game. She resets it. Okay, I'll do something easier. Make an easy thing for you to fight. And I think that's a great setup. It's all tongue-in-cheek sort of comedy throughout.
And this one's kind of like one of the DLCs that you should play the game through to the end. Okay. Because it spoils a big part of the actual main game. Okay. Because, spoiler for a game that is maybe 5 or 6 years old, Roland dies in the main game.
Does he?
And they refer, and so when they're about to start this game and she's about to play the game, Mordecai's there, Brick's there, Lilith's there, they're all kind of sat around the game, and she goes, let's wait for Roland. And she keeps making references. And then right at the very end, when you complete the level, they're stood, and there's a statue of Roland and Mordecai's bird, which I can't remember what it's called, but that also dies in the game. So that's there. So and I think this is the funniest DLC they've ever made.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason I didn't finish Borderlands 2, the main story, and it is this DLC. I played it and I just loved it so much that I didn't want to play the rest of the game. And then it lets you play it twice through, without restarting everything anyway. So I played it through a second time completely, and I didn't bother finishing the rest of the main game.
You missed out. There was some good game. You're right. Because also the loot system again. Because when you go to a lot of the loot crates, it had the dice on them. And then you could roll the dice, and depending on what you got better weapons or you'd get worse weapons. Okay, I forgot that. But it costs you iridium, so every so often you'll go towards a loot crate, and it'll have a little thing on it, and it's a set of dice, and that's the one that will cost you some iridium or not. Yeah, it was really cool. I think what they've done is they've taken the ideas that they had that was solid and worked and actually expanded on that in this case.
Yeah.
They gave it a good kind of very different feel to it, almost a medieval kind of look and feel, because you know the castle you finally get to at the start of the game, all that's quite cool. And then there's that pony as well. Even the bar which Moxie is looking after in this version.
Yeah, Moxie is really cool, yeah.
Yeah, everything. I think what they do with the DLCs...
And I like Moxie as a character as well, which is cool.
Yeah, because with the DLCs, I think what they do is they've built the main game, and it's almost like gone to someone else and said, look, build us a DLC.
Have some fun with it.
Yeah, just go crazy. Just make up missions and build whatever world you want, and then, it's amazing. And also, this one has references to Game of Thrones.
Cool. Was that around then?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Been around a long time.
It has been a long time. That DLC does.
I've still not even watched Game of Thrones. I've seen a little bit.
So, one of the things that I loved about Borderlands is not just like the main bosses, like in all games, are good. You know, you play against them because you're at the same level as them or slightly higher. You can always beat them. But what Borderlands 1 onwards had was a raid boss. So we're going to go through. Oh, you haven't done your rating for Borderlands 2. What's your rating?
With or without Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep?
It's the Handsome Jack collection, so it's the Game of the Year edition, so it's everything.
A whole lot, yeah. I mean, I never made it to the end, so but I'll still call it a PlayStation.
Okay, so we'll go through the raid bosses, and I don't think you've played any of these.
No,
I will tell you I'll give you a little description about them, tell you if they were easy or difficult, and then we'll have to come up with a new rating system for how you're going to rate the bosses. So the raid boss, the whole idea was that you should play this with up to 4 people, because that way you can kind of, as you're in the game, they would then concentrate on one character, and then the others can kind of shoot it and kind of try and get the health down. When one of you fall, the others would run up to you and try and health you while the other 2 keep shooting at it, and so on and so forth. So they created, so they created these bosses which would be way out of your league. If you played them, they would be like, so if you complete the game, play through 1, you're normally about level 30 or 35, somewhere between there. But if you played a raid boss, minimum expectation was you'd have to be level 50 for the very first kind of Borderlands 2 main story one. And really, if you want to complete it at level 50 or 51, you need 2 or 3 other people to be with you to really help you. You could do it by yourself, but it was more difficult because the difficulty just ramped up.
That's cool. So it encouraged co-op. And
the very first one was in the secret army of General Knox. And the mission simply said, you, and it said will die. And that was Crawmax the Invincible. So I remember this one. You go through, you're on the road because you're in your car, and then there's a little secret entrance. You go up there, get onto the lift, and then you get into this platform, and then you're there and you fight against this very first raid boss. And every so often there was enemies that would spawn up against you. And this raid boss, because it's the first time you've come up against something like this, just took so much hits to try and take any health down, and it was really, really difficult on your own. But it was fun because this was the first time you come up against something like this. Because in the game,
it's challenging.
You can complete every level, every boss by yourself. But this was the first time you came up against something who was, I think he always would be a level or 2 above you. Yeah. So it doesn't matter when you went in, he would always be a level above you or something. Yeah. And so they ramped up the difficulty from the start.
That's it, because mostly they allow. No, the main game would be single player, and then if you had other people playing co-op with you, at best they would scale the baddies up to make it more challenging because there's 2 of you or 3 of you. So it's good that you get to this point where you can't do it on your own. you need, so therefore you bring more people with you. It makes the boss easier rather than sort of scaling them up with.
Yeah,
like,
as more people join, they've still got more health, but it just made it easier. So you know when you
it still made it easier. That's cool.
Because when you play Borderlands and you die, you have that fight for your life or your second wind.
Yeah.
So that gives someone a chance to revive you while you're dying.
Yeah.
And then you could both kind of carry on hitting and shooting the thing. So that's why it made it easier. Because when you're on your own and you get hit, no one's going to revive you.
No, definitely.
So that's kind of where I'd say it became easier. But generally, yeah, everything would get harder. All the hit points, the amount of health it has, just became difficult. So that's the very first kind of raid boss that they had in Borderlands. So it was a Borderlands 1 boss. Again, these are all optional. None of these are kind of you have to do it to complete the game.
The main game.
Based on your 4-star rating and my description, and I know you've never played this boss before, based on originality, based on boss match, where do you rate this in your 4-star rating?
I feel like I don't really know enough, but for challenge, I say 4-star. I like this. I like the idea it's a challenge and it encourages multiplayer. And I'm quite sad that I didn't make it that far because I got
the only one as well. DLC. Yeah. Well, no. In Borderlands 1, this was the only one. This was the only raid boss they had, and it was within a DLC.
In a DLC. But then I take it in number 2, it brings it to the main game.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So we'll get into that. So you gave that 4 stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in Borderlands 2, in the main story, there were 2 raid bosses.
Okay.
So one was Teromosos the Invincible, and there was another one which was more of a chance encounter, which would happen if you're playing like Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, and if there's 4 people, and it would be the Varkid would have to just scale up by itself. So every so often you shoot it, it then creates this pod. And then that pod regens the character to the next level. So go from like badass to be, I think it's 1 or 2 iterations, and then it could become in the invincible character, which is the raid boss kind of level. Right. So the very first one, which was it was a game mission, and it was a main story mission. Okay. And it says on there in the main story, seriously, you will die. I think that's the capture line. Yeah. So you go there, you pay your iridium. You jump in, and then this massive boss comes out, and it's if you played the game previously, it's one of those. It's not a stalker. It's trying to think what. It's basically that character that has tentacles, and it's a massive kind of boss. But the most difficult thing about this boss was the location. So every so often, he would hit the ground, and you'd float up into the air, and it had the potential to just knock you off the map. So regardless of how well you're doing, you could end up getting knocked off the map. As you got knocked off the map, you would then end up behind the gate, which is closed if you play with more than one person. You'd have to wait till they kill the boss. So based on kind of my explanation, and the fact that this one's loot was amazing as well. You got loads of iridium, you got loads of money, you got loads of kind of weapons as well. And this was the first main game raid boss.
You say you had to pay iridium to get in?
Yes, every single one.
And then they can throw you out, and then you have to pay again?
It can easily throw you out, yes. You don't repay the money. Once you're in the area, you can just restart and you just carry on.
You can go back in. Okay, so it's not trying to rip you off of your iridium.
No, no.
I love the sound of the creature, tentacle creature, giant, and it sounds quite ruthless. 4 stars.
Perfect. What about the chance encounter one? The one that could spawn itself. So this is Vermaceros the Invincible. I might get the pronunciation wrong. But it could just appear in Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. If there's enough people in the game, it would just spawn by itself.
Oh wow, cool. Or was it annoying?
It was quite fun because you wouldn't know. Because you know when you see villains or enemies in the game, you tend to just be like, okay, if you hover over them, it will tell you the name of the character, and then you just keep shooting at it. So if it says a badass or it would say a normal kind of character, you just kind of shoot at it.
Yeah.
And then this one, you turn around and it could say, it could have the name and it say the Invincible, and you're like, oh shit, that's the one that's evolved. And so, and it appears in a normal area, so it's not closed off. There are other enemies around. That it's just, it could appear at any point in certain locations. Yeah.
Cool.
What's your rating?
Star rating?
Yeah.
I haven't experienced what it'd be like, but I guess if you're already in ultimate Vault Hunter mode, you're looking for new experiences all the time.
Yeah.
So it's got to be another 4 stars, that turning up at any moment.
I'd agree. I think it's good because you have a DLC you go to a mission and you're expecting that character to appear and it'd be a raid boss. But in this example, you're roaming around and it could just spawn by itself. Yeah. There's a percentage rate in which it could appear. I think that was a really good idea. Then the next one was in the DLC. There was 2 in this one. One is Hyperius the Invincible, and the other one, my favorite and maybe the easiest raid boss to kill, Master Gi the Invincible.
Master Gi.
So Hyperius was, he's like a robot, not a robot, but he's a guy in what seems like a mech suit. And as with all these bosses, as soon as you enter the arena, they just stand still and they just stood there. And until you don't shoot them, they don't do anything. Okay. So with Hyperius, he would stand there. You'd start shooting at him, but then he would blast like a Nova Blast and you'd lose your shield. And then he'd start jumping around and start attacking you. And he also had 4 helpers. I say helpers, but 4 characters who would kind of regen him and get his shield back up. So you got to not only kind of try and kill him, you got to try and kill those 4, because without killing those 4, you're not going to kill Hyperius. For me, this was a really frustrating raid boss because you waste so much ammo trying to kill the 4 things, and when you finally got really one down, he just got crazy and crazy, and he jumped around from location to location, and he bashed the ground and stuff.
2 stars.
2 stars, okay.
Yeah, I mean, regenerating health is annoying in any boss.
I think it was his shield. It wasn't his health, but still, after you take away all of that shield, it just regens it. Yeah. So the easiest one that you could do on your own, I think, is Master Gi the Invincible. So this one, he would appear again, once you shoot him, but he had this huge amount of health bar, but also massive shield. And what you do is you keep shooting at him, it would never pierce his shield. You could chuck all your ammo at him and he would take nothing down. But every so often in the level, a sandworm would appear. You shoot the sandworm and the sandworm would spill out corrosive acid. And then if you got Master Gi to go over where the sandworm was, he would absorb the corrosion and that would slowly take away his health or it'd slowly take away his shield. So more sandworms come, the more you get him, or you try and get him to go over the acid, he would then absorb the acid, and then he'd slowly take away his kind of health and his thing. So what you do is you run around, you shoot a few sandworms, get him to go over them, and then you'd hide for the rest of the level best you can, or run away from it best you can. And he would slowly lose health. But if you shot too many sandworms and he didn't go over them, then a pool of acid would appear. And it just kept on appearing on the screen. So you couldn't hide anywhere, because if you tread on it, it'd slowly take your health down. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes it a bit more interesting, but it sounds a bit boring. I'm going to give it a 3 stars.
3 stars?
Yeah,
okay.
Too easy.
The next one was, it was really easy. If you did it right, you could do it all by yourself. It was an easy one. So that's Borderlands. So based on kind of like what we've said so far, Borderlands 3 comes out in a couple of weeks. How excited are you for Borderlands 3?
I don't know, who's made it? Is it for all platforms again?
Yes, it is. It's the same people, same everything. Yeah.
Because I've been getting a lot of plugging from PlayStation, and that seems to put me off now, because I don't know what. Yeah, I get worried about what the quality of the story and all that is going to be like when PlayStation is plugging it. But if it's the original guys, then I'm fairly excited. I bet you're more excited than me.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! So at the end of Borderlands 2, they killed the Hunter and they killed Captain Jack, Handsome Jack. Captain Jack Pirates of the Caribbean, and then they realized that there's more vaults in different planets. So by the end of the main game, made me think that there's going to be travel involved where we might be going to different planets.
Multiple planets, awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know how the fast travel will work. Maybe we get an aeroplane. Maybe we just kind of fast travel from one planet to another. But just opening up the worlds, Borderlands 2, when it started off, you're in that snowy background. And then you go to different areas and they look very different. And I love the fact that the areas are different and there's a lot of optional areas that you don't even have to go to see if you don't want to, or depending on how you play the game. So I think, Borderlands 3 has the potential to be all of that and bigger, because if you've got a whole planet, you might have massive maps and the ability to kind of, I don't know, you explore the whole planet could be the size of some of Borderlands maps. Borderlands 1.
Do you think each planet will have varied terrain on each, or do you think they'll do
Star Wars
does, where it's like ice planet, forest planet?
Yeah.
I'd like to see.
I think it's Star Wars kind of. Because what that gives you is it gives you the option to, if you had a forest planet, everything would be in that vein. So you could have enemies that are very different in that area, and they're indigenous to that area. And when you go to the snowy area, there'll be the snowy villains, and there'll be enemies of that level. And
tons of psychos everywhere anyway. Planet to planet.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm really excited for this one. This is a must play, right? So this is a PlayStation 4 Pro.
Must for you.
Yes, or a watch it in the IMAX rating.
Watch it in the IMAX. Okay. I don't know if do you want me to give it a rating for whether you should play it?
Yeah, where do you stand with the Borderlands 3?
I don't know. The fact it's on the next gen is just...
It's on PS4.
Yeah, I mean this gen. I mean,
PS5's not out.
The others were on PS3. I'll have to wait and see how it goes for me. There's just so much on PlayStation 4. And I'm loving the retro gaming, so I might be going back to Borderlands 2.
Finally, you played the Handsome Jack edition.
Yeah, I'll finally finish it.
Maybe, yeah. No, I'm really excited for this. This was kind of like, since playing Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 back in 2012, I've waited a long time for this one. So yeah,
I really love playing co-op with you, but I think when I played the DLC of Tiny Tina, and you sort of carried on a little bit more, and I ended up a bit behind on levels, so I think I lost some of the experience that I enjoyed of that. I quite enjoyed being like more powerful, basically. And suddenly I was struggling when I was trying to play along in the same game. So it would be nice if they could sort something out where it just balances out the levels a bit better when you're playing co-op. If you have got some distance, then that would be really nice. And then something can come in on co-op.
Yeah, so maybe they make it so if you're a level 30 character, only people can join you who are 10% close to your level. So only someone who's 27 or 33 between that range.
Again, that means you can't join people. What they do with Dragon's Crown, which I've been playing a lot, is there's different difficulty modes. Like you beat the game on normal, you get access to hard mode, and then be on hard, you get access to the next mode, whatever it is. But then if you want to play with players that are playing on normal through their story still on normal, it just caps your, whatever level you are, each level has a different cap, and it just brings your level down to whatever theirs is, so you can play together and it's still a bit of a challenge. So I'd like to see something like that where anyone can play together, but say you're level 100, but they're playing on, they're playing at level 35, it just does something to bring you down more to their level.
To the host level.
Yeah, so whoever the host is, whatever they're doing, maybe they're super powerful compared to you and they're on the end boss and you want to go help them out. There's no point in joining as a level 10 character. It could maybe boost you up for whatever you're doing, give you a bit more damage, give you a bit more protection.
I don't think that would work. Because you've got a skill tree, And
Yeah.
when you level up, you get to a certain point on your skill tree, right? So you could be looking at completing one whole branch of your skill tree, getting to level 30. So if someone joins your game and they're level 20, then you have to give them 10 more skill points.
Yeah, I mean, there's skill trees in Dragon's Crown as well, again, but it's just a matter of changing damage at least. I mean, you still have all the skill tree to look forward to when you're playing your own game, but you just need to be able to survive, basically. It needs to give you a fighting chance in those, and also give you a bit less power if you're helping someone out that's lower level, because otherwise, I think that's the main problem with the co-op, is that you can be so much more or less powerful. So if they can fix that, it'd be great. But you're right. I mean, it's not easy, but
no,
I think it's possible. I mean, you've come from a perspective of the skill trees and you're thinking in those terms, but I've seen it in a way that seems to work, where it just changes what power level you're at, rather than giving you different abilities necessarily.
I think if you have a range, that might work better. So you could just say, people within this range can join my game based on whatever the Borderlands game thingy is.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that completes our review of Borderlands. Borderlands 2, I avoided pre-sequel because I haven't finished it yet.
It's a pre-sequel. We can't talk about that one yet.
Well, it's a pre-sequel to Borderlands. It's the game in between Borderlands 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the rise of Handsome Jack.
It's kind of like a little extra thing, isn't it, really? That's what it felt like.
Yeah, but it is a full game.
Yeah,
it's a full game. There's loads of levels. You're playing on Pandora's moon. And it is, you still get to like level 50 of whatever it is. And you could play as Claptrap as well as one of the playable characters. Awesome. And you could play as Handsome Jack.
I'll have to try it now. I'll play as Claptrap.
Yeah, you can play as Claptrap. You can play as Handsome Jack. You could play as the character I played as, Nisha. She's one of the people you meet in Borderlands 2. You could play as Willem, and he's another character you meet in Borderlands 2. And I think there's a third character who also appears in Borderlands 2. But yeah, haven't played it enough. So. Okay,
cool.
So that brings us to
in another segment.
Yeah. So that brings us neatly into our next segment. What's the segment? My Guy Monkey, I would like to know.
Still got the jingles. That's good.
Yes.
This segment is what we've been watching and doing.
Yep.
I haven't really been doing anything this week. It's been hot. I've been working. I have seen a few things that are previews, but that would come up in preview. The next segment after that. What about yourself?
I watched something called Happy Day Murders.
Okay. What is that?
Remember Jim Henson, the creator of these incredible Muppets? He's got alternative Muppet Company, I think it's called, something like that. And off the back of that, they created a film with Melissa McCarthy.
Yeah, I wanted to watch that in cinema, but it wasn't on long enough. They didn't show it very long. And
so I watched that where she partners with a Muppet and they're trying to work out what the Happy Day Murders are.
It's just like, it's an adult Muppet.
That's right, adult Muppets, adult themed, because the Muppets swear and do things that Sesame Street characters wouldn't normally do on TV.
Depending on your family, it's probably adults only.
Yes, adults only, definitely. And you know what? I'm glad you never watched it, because this is one of those films you should never watch.
Is it rubbish?
It's terrible, yeah.
I think I heard it was rubbish, but...
I know, you got Melissa McCarthy, I thought it'd be funny. You got the guy from Community, you got a few other kind of people. And they show these outtakes right at the very end, and the guys making it seem to be having so much fun. But when you watch it, it is it's a ball ache to get through. It's really not funny.
I know the sort of thing. I can imagine it. It's one of those things where they're just trying to do adult comedy and it just doesn't work. So,
like, I think the best people to do that is like Team America World Police, right? That was an incredible film. I think that's how you do a film. It's funny. It's adult themed. And obviously, they made the incredible South Park movie as well, so
you can't
they
just
know
make
what they're doing.
rude jokes and swear a lot in it and make it funny. That's not how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Just because you've got a puppet and you make it say the F word, it's not always funny.
Well, I still wanted to see it, so I will have to go and watch it.
It's currently on Netflix.
Excellent. I'll be watching it soon.
Even though I've said forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, nothing encourages me more to watch a film than someone saying it's bad.
I need not to find bad, out it's terrible.
Myself.
It's
is
just
it,
the
is
worst.
That terrible? I need to see how terrible. See if I've got any redeeming features for it.
Oh, it's got no redeeming features.
Nothing
I
at
think
all.
The only redeeming feature is only an hour and a bit. It's not very long.
Not long. Good.
Hour and a half, maybe.
That's good. So that's a 5-star rating for length.
For an hour and a half of your time to sit there and to watch it to the end. Oh.
An hour and a half of torture, but it could have been worse. It could have been longer.
But yes, it's not worth watching at all.
Okay. Anything else? We're getting the weather coming in now.
Yeah. I watched something. It's really windy now. Studio interference. We've got big car. It's not a car. One of those trucks that destroys trees. That put a tree cutter in the back. They've just turned on the machine. That's what that noise was.
Okay.
I was just thinking, I did watch something else, but I can't remember what it was. And it was a film which was just a CGI mess, but I can't remember what it was.
Okay, please tell us next week.
Yeah, I'll try and remember what it was. But yeah, so this week I only watched Happy Death Day Murders thing, and I played a lot of Borderlands. Oh, yeah. So I can kind of like talk about it.
Okay. Well, I've been playing Dragon's Crown still, so you can count that one.
I've because I've not heard. I've not mentioned it once.
For 3 weeks, I think, at least. I've got all the trophies now except one and the platinum, so I've definitely been playing this game. Yeah. But yeah, that's it really. Upcoming though, I've seen gameplay for Streets of Rage 3. Streets of Rage 4.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
No.
I recommend having a look. It looks kind of cartoony, and it feels a bit like an indie game, like the look of it, and that it looks a bit boring to me. So we'll have to see how it goes. And the music is by similar people as the last ones, but it wasn't amazing. But I am still looking forward to it so much because I want to see. I love all the Streets of Rage series. Well, Streets of Rage 2 is the best. Maybe 1. Yeah.
Maybe 1. Maybe 0.1.
1 is good as well, but like Streets of Rage 3 is the one that lets it down a little bit. But I still love the series. Also, there's another game which is also a brawler, because that's a brawler. Dragon's Crown is a brawler that I'm playing. You might notice I'm a fan of brawlers. River City Girls is coming out soon.
Okay.
It's a spin-off of the River City Ransom games, which is it was called Street Gangs in the UK.
Okay.
It's a brawler type of game. But it also had some RPG elements where you could go in to shops and supply coffee and things to affect your ability to beat people up. So obviously this one's based on the girls of the series and has some manga cutscenes and some story in it, and that's got me quite excited. So we'll see how that goes. And the other thing is I'm going to Fighting Fantasy Fest 3 this week, which I've talked about already. So that's what I've been preparing for this week. So going to a Bureau meet up and a quiz Friday and on Saturday, and I'll be meeting some people there, authors, and sometimes artists would be there as well. But then on the Saturday I'll be meeting lots of artists, going to seminars and things like that. And
so as the podcast comes out a few days after you've just come back from.
Yes, I will.
How was it?
Just come back. I can tell you about last year. I can say that everyone there is just really friendly, and it's just a really fun experience. Like the fans are really friendly, but also the artists and the authors are just so kind, and they genuinely love what they do and love meeting people. So yeah, it's a real pleasure and a joy.
Oh, it's a proper recommendation then.
Yeah. Next, there'll probably be, this is the 37th anniversary for Fighting Fantasy, the game books. There'll be another one for 40th, I imagine, so 3 years' time. So we definitely have to get people on board. Yeah. Let people know about tickets beforehand if they want to be interested in that sort of thing.
Yeah, we'll do like adverts and stuff leading up to it. Yeah. Sounds really good.
We'll ask Jonathan Green if he wants to sponsor us up to do adverts.
Yes, of course. Free books.
Yeah, just free books. There's a new book coming out as well, and there's a hardback edition exclusively there. So, a lot to look forward to for the weekend.
Oh, awesome. Myself, I think I'm only going to be. I'm going to try and watch Dora the Explorer because you sold it to me last week. So I just need to get around to watching that because that sounds awesome.
Sounds like you want to. Yeah, you'll enjoy it from what you've said. Yeah. Okay.
And that's it. So how can people contact us?
Description below.
Yes.
There's lots of ways to contact us, so please go ahead and do it. Let us know if topics that you want us to cover, and also give us any feedback, positive or negative, preferably standards of positivity as well. That would be nice.
And of course, subscribe and tell a friend.
Yes, good plan.
Yeah.
That'd be
brilliant.
nice.
And thanks for listening. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.